Hi, thank you for giving us the opportunity to participate in the Zurich Enterprise Challenge. Our team consists of Nadia Hernandez-Kwan, myself, Maggie Lovett, Jonathan Miller, and Mark Roberts. We have a packed agenda for you today, so I will go ahead and jump into the background and process of our analysis. RoboCanada is looking to take advantage of growth opportunities in Asia and wants to shorten its supply chain. The company is focusing on 7 countries. Our team evaluated those countries based on business and political risks. It's important to understand that not all risks are created equally. Our team chose to focus on the top 4 risks in each category that we believed were most relevant to RoboCanada. For example, we believe the greatest business risk is government regulation. If you can't do business in a country because of onerous regulations, it doesn't really matter what the exchange rate is. We began our analysis by looking at the Zurich Risk Room. The database tracks how each country performs along all the various risk metrics from 2007 through 2014. Our group looked at each country in each year to determine if the country was in the first, second, third, or fourth quartile on that risk metric, with quartile 1 being the most risky. We have based our recommendation on the average quartile over the past 3 years. So for example, over the past 3 years, Malaysia on average has been in the 4th quartile for risk of government regulation, trading across borders, and efficacy of enforcing contracts. Based on this methodology, the best countries for RoboCanada to consider are, in order, Malaysia, China, and Thailand. We also wanted to point out that all 3 of these countries are closer to RoboCanada's target Asian markets than the UK or Canadian facilities, making for 3 interesting viable options for RoboCanada to consider. Jonathan will now speak to you about current trends.
We want to put our recommendations in context. What we see is that China, Thailand, and Malaysia are stable countries that are exhibiting positive risk trends. From a high-level standpoint, these countries have been recognized as great places to do business by third-party institutions. From a supply chain perspective, the faster RoboCanada can begin operations, the quicker it will be able to delay customization and final assembly for customers and decrease cost. Canada's current logistics hubs are located in some of the least risky countries in the world. As such, the team felt that a conservative approach to taking on new risk would be most appropriate. This approach also limits many of the potential global strategy pitfalls, including cultural differences, administrative challenges, and geographic distance to new markets. This does not mean that RoboCanada will not have new challenges compared to where they currently operate. For example, Malaysia, China, and Thailand tend to have higher levels of corruption, though that is decreasing over time. As well, the quality of labor may be less developed, but the variance over time in terms of riskiness has held steady, indicating that RoboCanada can be confident in the employees to meet certain knowledge thresholds. From a political risk standpoint, RoboCanada currently has a low risk profile for its distribution locations. However, a move into one of these new countries will increase certain exposures, including things like expropriation and political violence. Overall, RoboCanada is able to replicate many of its existing risk levels with Thailand, China, and Malaysia. But it will pay for that privilege, as wages will likely be higher and there will be less opportunity for large-scale arbitrage along the supply chain. Mark will now go through the mitigation of some of these new risks.
Among the most significant and ongoing risks for an international business are those related to government regulation, cross-border trading, and customs procedures. RoboCanada will need to mitigate these risks by increasing lead times and budgets to deal with the uncertainties. Additionally, they should consider whom they could partner with to help them in this process, such as local distributors or adjacent companies in the supply chain. Further, each specific market will have to be considered on a case-by-case basis. For example, according to World Bank, Thailand's primary regulatory risk factors include the time and money of starting a new business, a risk that would dissipate after the initial startup. Although this list is not exhaustive, it gives some understanding as to the depth of work required to mitigate these different risks. Ultimately, it will cost the company additional time and money and adds to the burden of international trade.
Thank you, Mark. Zurich Risk Room provides insight on macro-level trends occurring nationally. Since many of the regulations that affect business decisions are highly influenced by the political and legal governing structures, these risk measures are extremely relevant to RoboCanada's ability to establish a new assembly and distribution hub. As my colleagues have already mentioned, these risk measures have been used for our recommendations. Nevertheless, we see some limitations that merit further risk analysis that is more region-specific within the country chosen. As you can see in the bottom of this inverted pyramid, the micro-level regional nuances are not captured entirely within the country risk assessment. For example, a country as vast as China has extremely different technology infrastructures between its many provinces. Therefore, it is wise to take the risk analysis and further expand the assessment to the individual provinces in this country, as you would for the smaller countries, Thailand and Malaysia. Recently in the media, we have seen many headlines that could affect the success of the hub. Therefore, although the past is very relevant to forecast trends, it is also important to understand current events that may be more immediately impactful towards decisions of tomorrow.
Through our analysis of RoboCanada's needs and risk requirements, we recommend China, Thailand, and Malaysia as potential countries to locate an assembly and distribution hub in Asia. RoboCanada's primary need is to shorten its supply chain and minimize the cost of doing international commerce. Furthermore, Malaysia consistently has the lowest risk of any option. Once a deeper regional analysis is conducted, we believe that from Malaysia, RoboCanada will be able to easily ship high volumes of product in and out of its target Asian markets.